Imagine a dark Ukrainian night. The silence of the battlefield was broken only by the faint hum of approaching drones, hundreds of them. Tiny, almost invisible, but deadly. Within minutes, a massive Russian convoy, tanks, trucks, and armored vehicles, is reduced to burning wreckage. Soldiers flee into the woods, terrified of what they can't even see. These weren't ordinary drones. They were kamikaze drones, self-destructive flying bombs guided by precision and fury. This is not science fiction. This is the new reality of war, and this moment might have just rewritten the rulebook of modern combat. Before we dive deep into this shocking incident, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned till the end. Because what Ukraine just unleashed could change how every future war is fought. The dawn of a new battlefield. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, many believed it would be a swift victory for Moscow. But what unfolded instead was a brutal, grinding conflict that turned into a testing ground for 21st century warfare. Traditional tanks and artillery still mattered, but the skies above became the real battlefield. Drones, cheap, small, and incredibly lethal, became Ukraine's eyes, ears, and now, their sword. By late 2025, Ukraine had transformed its drone program into one of the most advanced on Earth. Thousands of small Kamikaze drones, unmanned aerial vehicles designed to crash directly into targets, were being assembled every month. Dozens of tanks, fuel trucks, and armored transports rolling under the cover of darkness. What they didn't know was that they were already being watched. High above them, hundreds of small drones, each carrying a warhead, the size of a hand grenade, began to descend. They moved like a cloud of death, invisible against the night sky. Within moments, they struck with devastating accuracy. Explosions erupted across miles of terrain as vehicles ignited in a chain reaction. A convoy that had taken months to assemble was obliterated in under 20 minutes. The entire event was captured by Ukrainian reconnaissance footage, silent, eerie, and horrifyingly efficient. It wasn't just a strike, it was a demonstration of power and precision. The birth of the kamikaze swarm. The idea of suicide drones isn't new, but Ukraine's use of them was revolutionary. Early in the war, Ukraine relied on foreign-supplied drones like the Switchblade 300 or Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2. These kamikaze drones were essentially flying bombs. Each one could identify, track, and dive onto a target with deadly precision. But the real innovation came with the swarm AI. Dozens, even hundreds, of drones linked together by artificial intelligence, sharing data in real time. If one drone was destroyed, another instantly took its place. The result? A coordinated attack so fluid and overwhelming that even Russia's air defenses couldn't respond fast enough. It wasn't just technology, it was a genius born out of desperation. Inside the swarm, how it works. Each drone in Ukraine's swarm acts like a cell in a living organism. They communicate through encrypted mesh networks. No central controller, no single point of failure. Some drones are decoys, designed to confuse radar systems. Others carry small explosive charges. And a few, the leaders of the swarm, carry cameras and sensors to guide the attack. Together, they operate with almost human-like intelligence, but without hesitation or fear. This level of autonomy marks a terrifying leap forward, because for the first time, machines aren't just assisting humans in war, they're fighting it themselves. The aftermath. Chaos and confusion. When the smoke cleared, what remained was a landscape of twisted metal and silence. Satellite images later showed over 60 Russian vehicles destroyed, tanks, fuel carriers, and missile systems reduced to ash. Reports suggested dozens of casualties. Russian soldiers described it as a storm from nowhere, claiming even their air defense systems were overwhelmed. inexpensive machines that cost less than a single missile. And for Ukraine, it was a massive morale boost. A message to the world that technology can defeat size, if used wisely. Russia's response: panic in the command. In the days that followed, Russian military leadership was thrown into crisis. Reports emerged of frantic efforts to jam Ukrainian drone frequencies, deploy anti-air weapons, and relocate key convoys under camouflage. But the truth was clear. Traditional defenses weren't built to stop hundreds of threats at once. Drone experts compared it to fighting a swarm of bees with a hammer. You might hit one, maybe even 10, but you'll never stop them all. For every drone destroyed, dozens more slipped through. Russian soldiers began refusing to travel in large convoys, fearing they'd become easy targets. The psychological toll was enormous. The global reaction: a new era of warfare. Across the world, military analysts were stunned. Nations from the US to China began reevaluating their drone strategies. The Pentagon released a quiet but urgent report calling swarm drones the most disruptive battlefield technology since the invention of the tank. Defense companies raced to adapt. New anti-drone weapons, electromagnetic shields, and counter-swarm algorithms were fast-tracked. Meanwhile, Ukraine's allies praised the innovation, calling it a David versus Goliath moment in modern history. For smaller nations, it sent a powerful message. You no longer need billions in tanks or jets to defend your land. You just need brains, drones, and courage. The cost of innovation. But behind the triumph lay a darker truth. Many died during tests or strikes on their makeshift labs. For them, it wasn't about glory. It was survival. As one engineer said in an interview, "We don't have the luxury of time or money. We build what we must, or we lose our homes." The Kamikaze swarm became both a symbol of Ukrainian resistance and a reflection of human desperation under siege. The human side of a machine war. Amid the technological triumph, we often forget the human stories behind it. The Ukrainian soldiers who watched the skies light up that night described mixed emotions: pride, relief, and sorrow. They knew each successful strike meant fewer Russian tanks, but also more lives lost on both sides. One soldier whispered into the radio after the attack, "We won tonight, but it doesn't feel like winning." This is the duality of modern war, where machines bring efficiency but at a terrible emotional cost. NATO conducted joint drills simulating swarm attacks. China accelerated its AI drone projects. Even smaller nations began experimenting with similar systems, inspired by Ukraine's ingenuity. The swarm attack didn't just destroy a convoy. It sparked a technological revolution, a race that could redefine global power dynamics for decades. Every general, every strategist, every defense minister is now asking the same question: what happens when the swarm turns against us? The ethical storm. As these drones grow more autonomous, ethical dilemmas deepen. Can a machine understand mercy? Should a robot decide who lives and who dies? The Ukrainian swarm attack, while tactically brilliant, has forced the world to confront uncomfortable truths. Some experts warn of a coming era of drone terrorism, where rogue states or militias could unleash AI swarms on cities or infrastructure. The technology that once protected Ukraine could someday be used for unspeakable destruction elsewhere. It's the paradox of innovation. The same brilliance that saves can also doom us. A message to the world. Ukraine's victory that night was more than a military success. It was a declaration that courage, creativity, and determination can outmatch even the most powerful armies. The Kamikaze swarm represented the spirit of a nation refusing to bow, but it also serves as a warning to all humanity. The age of AI warfare has begun. The question now isn't if it spreads, but how far it will go. Because as the world watched those drones light up the night sky, one truth became impossible to ignore. The battlefield is no longer fought by men alone, but by the machines they've created. The final strike, and what comes next. In the days after the attack, Ukraine continued to deploy its swarms with increasing success. Russian supply lines were disrupted, bases destroyed. But as each drone returned, or didn't, Ukrainian engineers learned more, refining their code, improving their coordination, and preparing for even bigger missions. This isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning. What happened that night will echo across the decades as the moment modern warfare changed forever. The swarm that wiped out the Russian convoy wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of evolution, proof that the future doesn't belong to the strongest or richest. It belongs to those who can adapt the fastest. The rise of the machine army. The world has officially entered the era of autonomous war. The Kamikaze drone swarm that obliterated Russia's convoy stands as a milestone, a terrifying yet fascinating leap forward. Ukraine, under siege and outgunned, found victory in innovation. But as we move into this new age of AI-driven destruction, one haunting question remains: will humanity still control the wars it starts? Or will our machines one day decide for us? Because as history has shown, every weapon we create eventually shapes the future, for better or for worse. If this story gave you chills, if it made you think about the fragile line between innovation and destruction, then make sure to hit subscribe, drop a like, and share your thoughts below. What do you think? Is Ukraine's drone swarm a sign of victory, or a warning of what's to come? Because one thing is certain, the future of war just arrived, and it came buzzing in on electric wings.